Here we will look at the Lake Herman Road murders of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen on December the 20th, 1968, from the perspective of two shooters. The assailant's vehicle pulled into the turnout about 10, 11, 12, 13 feet away from the Rambler. The driver and the passenger exited the vehicle. Now, initially, the passenger is obviously obscured by the driver, so cannot really initiate the attack from his standpoint. The driver immediately takes a shot at the Rambler. It strikes the headliner of the Rambler and embeds in the upholstery on the opposite side. He takes a second shot and it misses the Rambler and disappears into the field beyond. The two shots he fired, one casing could eject, hit the top of the vehicle here and bounce down, landing here on the turnout 20 feet from the Rambler. The second casing may have ejected slightly to the right, bounced off the bonnet here and down here 14 feet from the Rambler. He then steps forward here and from about 4 feet away with an extended arm, about 2.5 feet from the rear right window, he fires a shot which travels down into the window at an angle of about 17 to 19 degrees, striking the left rear wheel well of the Rambler. This can be calculated based on a height of 5'10" and a bit of trigonometry. The casing ejects behind him and lands there, about 8 feet from the Rambler. He then forces the couple from the vehicle and he secures Betty Lou Jensen. This is the driver who has now fired 3 shots and secured Betty Lou Jensen about here. By this time, the assailant from the passenger side has circled the vehicle and has arrived. David Faraday exits the vehicle and he secures David Faraday by the right rear wheel here. We don't know who was murdered first, but the person who was shot 3 times now lets Betty Lou Jensen go and she runs in this direction here and was discovered where this policeman is shining his flashlight. He fired 6 shots towards her, missed once, that bullet flew into the distance, that was never found also, and she was struck 5 times. That means the driver had now fired 9 shots and the other person who has secured David Faraday hasn't shot at all at this point. David Faraday may have been executed before Betty Lou Jensen. We can't say with any certainty. But either way, he has got David Faraday secured by the right rear wheel. Now, 10 casings were fired that night and noted at the crime scene on all the police sketches, but only 9 turned up at the Department of Justice. It is very likely these 9 were retrieved as reported in the police report, but this one was never mentioned as being retrieved. It is very likely that this casing got towed away with the Rambler and separated from the other 9. It was determined that these 9 casings were likely fired from the same weapon, but without ever finding this casing or knowing what happened to it, we cannot determine that this wasn't fired from a separate weapon. We also have the ballistics report, which stated all bullets submitted were Western copper-coated .22 long rifle bullets. Although some were damaged, it was possible to determine all but item 1 had 6 right-hand groove class characteristics. Item 1 was the bullet recovered from David Faraday. An assailant holding David Faraday here with a gun pressed behind his left ear, close up. If he was right-handed and shot David from the front, the casing could very well eject here and land directly into the passenger floorboard of the Rambler or deflect off the door into the passenger side of the Rambler. It's also possible he was holding David Faraday from behind and was a left-handed shooter, but the same would apply. The casing would eject into the Rambler or off the door onto the floorboard. We cannot determine that this casing had the same characteristics as the other 9 casings, and we've already found out that it's possible that that bullet fired from David Faraday had different class characteristics to the other 6 submitted. Therefore, this casing could be connected to this bullet, bolstering the idea that 2 shooters were involved that night. Now, in all the other crimes, the Zodiac blindsided Paul Stein, kept the couple in the vehicle at Blue Rock Springs, and tied up the couple at Lake Berryessa. He never took any risks. Why would a person who had a pencil flashlight on his weapon not just shoot David Faraday from 2 or 3 feet away and then concentrate on Betty Lou? Why does he need to turn the turnout into darkness by placing the pencil flashlight close up behind David Faraday's ear, plunging the turnout into darkness and risking being disarmed when he could have just shot him from 3 or 4 feet away? Does this again bolster the idea that a second shooter had David Faraday secured while the other person murdered Betty Lou Jensen?